Every battle you face in life is not always visible to the eye. Often, the greatest conflicts take place in the silence of your own thoughts. Doubt whispers, fear tries to shout, and discouragement quietly seeps in. These are not just feelings, they are strategies meant to weaken your faith and shake your confidence. If you do not learn to recognize them, they will shape your choices and steal your future. But when you identify the lie for what it is, you strip it of its power. The enemy knows that the mind is the control center of your life. If he can convince you that you are not enough, not strong enough, or not worthy enough, then you will live beneath the potential planted inside you. This is why guarding your mind is critical. Every negative thought cannot be given free access. You must examine it and ask, is this thought lifting me or limiting me? By filtering thoughts through truth, you begin to reclaim control and shut down the toxic voices trying to define you. Words have power. Silence allows lies to echo longer than they should. When you speak truth with boldness, you silence deception. Saying I am strong, I am chosen, I am not defeated is not about positive thinking. It is about declaring the reality that aligns with your identity. Every time you speak life over yourself, you dismantle the narrative that was trying to keep you small. But words alone are not enough. You must anchor them in something unshakable. Feelings change, but principles and promises remain constant. When you remind yourself daily of what stands forever, you stop letting temporary struggles control your long-term vision. This is how you walk forward without constantly looking over your shoulder, waiting for fear to strike again. Another weapon that shuts the devil down is gratitude and worship. These shift your perspective from what is missing to what is already present. When you choose to worship in the middle of pain, you send a clear message. You cannot steal my joy. Gratitude silences complaining, and worship destroys discouragement. This posture does not ignore pain, it redefines it. The final key is this: you are not fighting to gain victory. You are fighting from a place of victory already secured. When you understand that your strength, your worth, and your destiny are already affirmed, you no longer beg for approval. You walk with authority. This is the ultimate way to shut the devil down, not by arguing with lies, but by living in a truth so loud that the lies can no longer compete. Life has a way of testing every ounce of your courage, every layer of your faith, and every fiber of your resilience. And in those moments, the voice that seeks to pull you down is often not outside, but inside, whispering discouragement, amplifying fear, and magnifying every weakness you have ever known. Yet it is in these very battles that you must decide whether you will let those voices run freely or you will shut them down with truth, with authority, and with an unshakable determination that your life has more purpose than your pain, more destiny than your doubt, and more strength than your struggle. The voice of opposition tells you that you cannot make it, that you are too broken, that you have failed too many times, but you must rise and remind yourself that every failure is a classroom, every setback is a setup for growth, and every scar is evidence that you survived something that tried to destroy you. Shutting the devil down is not about ignoring the reality of challenges, but about refusing to surrender your identity to lies, because the mind is the battleground where your future is either won or lost. And if you worry the challenge, allow insecurity to dictate your choices, then you will live small. But if you replace those toxic thoughts with words of life, declaring out loud that you are capable, chosen, strong, and unstoppable, then you cut off the power of the lie and release the truth that was buried beneath it. Every time fear says you will not succeed, you answer with the certainty that your steps are guided. Every time doubt tells you to quit, you respond with the conviction that your story is not finished. And every time discouragement insists that your best days are behind you, you fight back with gratitude for what you have and faith for what is coming. The strategy is not complicated, but it requires consistency. You feed your spirit with words that align with your destiny. You guard your thoughts from the poison of comparison. You anchor your soul in promises that do not shift with circumstances, And you choose gratitude and worship not because life is painless, but because joy is a weapon and gratitude is an antidote to bitterness. Shutting the devil down means living from victory, not striving for it, walking with the awareness that you already carry within you what you need to overcome. And when you adopt that posture, the lies lose their volume, the fear loses its sting, and the negativity loses its grip. Because truth shouted louder than deception will always silence the enemy. And the more you declare who you are and live in alignment with it, the less room there is for anything else to dictate your life. Until finally you realize that shutting the devil down is not a single moment of resistance, but a lifestyle of refusing to bow to fear, refusing to yield to lies, and refusing to believe that your story ends in defeat when it was always written for victory. Sitta. There are moments in life when the weight of opposition feels unbearable, when the inner voice of fear grows louder than the reality of your potential, and when doubt tries to convince you that you will never rise beyond the struggles pressing against you. It is in those seasons that shutting the devil down becomes not just a phrase, but a way of life, because the battle is rarely against what you can see. It is against what you think and what you believe about yourself. Every whisper that tells you you are not strong enough, every thought that insists your past disqualifies you, and every fear that suggests you are running out of time must be confronted with truth and silence before it takes root. To do this, you must first recognize that your mind is the battleground where your destiny is determined. If you allow fear, insecurity, or discouragement to take control of your thoughts, they will shape your actions, your choices, and ultimately your future. But if you learn to stop those lies before they spread, if you stand firm and replace them with words of life and strength, you cut off the power of negativity and reclaim the authority that was always yours. It is not about pretending hardship does not exist. It is about refusing to give hardship the final say. You begin by speaking out loud what aligns with the truth of who you are, strong, capable, chosen, and unshakable. Every declaration you make shifts the atmosphere of your mind, and little by little, the voice of fear loses its volume, because words are not empty. They carry weight, and when used with conviction, they dismantle lies and build courage that no storm can break. But shutting the devil down goes beyond words. It is a lifestyle of discipline, gratitude, and perspective that empowers you to rise above every attempt to keep you small. You anchor your confidence in promises that do not shift with your circumstances, because feelings come and go, but principles stand unshaken. This is why gratitude becomes such a powerful weapon. It shifts your focus from what is missing to what is present, from what has been lost to what has been given, and from what looks impossible to what has already been made possible. Gratitude silences complaints and worship disarms discouragement, because when you choose to honor what you have and who you are, the voice of negativity no longer finds fertile ground to grow. And perhaps the most important shift of all is to understand that you are not striving for victory as though it were still uncertain. You are living from victory that has already been secured. That awareness changes everything. It moves you from begging for approval to walking in authority, from fighting to prove yourself to standing confidently in your identity. When you know that the outcome has already been written in your favor, the lies that once intimidated you suddenly appear powerless, and you realize that shutting the devil down is not about one big dramatic moment, but about daily choices to silence lies with truth, to answer fear with faith, and to face every new challenge with the assurance that you are stronger, wiser, and more resilient than anything that comes against you. There are times in life when the battles you fight are not visible to the eyes of others, but are waged silently within your own mind. The voice of fear creeps in at the most vulnerable hours, whispering that you are not enough, that your strength will fail, and that your story is heading toward disappointment. Discouragement tries to magnify your mistakes, reminding you of every failure and convincing you that those failures define you. It is in these moments that you are faced with a choice. Either allow those voices to shape your reality or stand firm and shut them down before they take control. The enemy thrives in silence. When you do not confront lies, they grow louder, shaping your identity and limiting your vision. That is why learning to recognize these deceptive strategies is the first step toward breaking free. The thoughts you choose to entertain will become the direction your life moves toward. If you nurture doubt, insecurity, and fear, they will choke your progress. But if you confront them with truth, with faith, and with unshakable confidence in the purpose planted inside you, you dismantle their grip and open the door to a future that was always meant for you. The way to shut the devil down is not only to resist the lies mentally, but to speak out loud words that align with truth. Silence gives lies room to breathe, but declarations suffocate them. Every time fear says you cannot move forward, you respond with conviction that you are equipped to face what lies ahead. Every time discouragement tries to convince you that your best days are behind you, you remind yourself that the story is still being written and that the ending has already been secured in your favor. Words are powerful. They build or they break, they heal or they harm, they strengthen or they weaken. When you use your words to declare life, you silence the voices of death trying to echo in your mind. But this cannot be random or occasional. It must become a lifestyle. Just as negativity grows stronger when repeated, so does faith. Repeatedly declaring strength, worth, and destiny is how you rewire your perspective and shift the atmosphere of your mind. Over time, those affirmations create resilience so deeply rooted that no storm can uproot it, because you have learned not to let your feelings dictate your foundation. Instead, you stand on promises and principles that do not change when life gets difficult. Yet, shutting the devil down goes even further than words. It is about posture, discipline, and perspective. Gratitude transforms how you see your situation. Because when you choose to focus on what you still have instead of what you lack, discouragement loses its authority. Worship reorients your heart, not by pretending pain does not exist, but by acknowledging that pain does not control the final outcome. Every time you lift gratitude above complaint, you weaken the grip of negativity. And perhaps the most powerful perspective is realizing that you are not striving for victory, but living from victory already won. That shift changes how you carry yourself. You no longer walk timidly, hoping for approval, but with authority, knowing that your identity is secure. Every lie that once intimidated you begins to sound hollow because you understand that truth has already defeated it. Shutting the devil down is not a single act, but a continual choice, a rhythm of silencing lies with truth, replacing fear with faith, and turning every battle into a platform to reveal resilience. When you live this way, you no longer see opposition as a sign of weakness, but as an opportunity to exercise strength. And you realize that shutting the devil down is not about ending the fight, but about changing the way you fight, so that every day becomes a declaration that you are stronger, wiser, and unshakable in the face of every attempt to hold you back. Life has a way of presenting battles that are not always visible to those around you, yet they rage loudly in the silence of your own mind. These battles take the form of fear, discouragement, and doubt, each one creeping in with the intent to derail your confidence and weaken your vision. The voice of fear often shouts that you are not enough, magnifying your limitations and minimizing your strengths. Doubt whispers that your dreams are unrealistic, that you lack what it takes, and discouragement adds weight by pointing to every past mistake as proof that you cannot succeed. These voices are subtle yet powerful, and if they are left unchallenged, they begin to shape your decisions, your self-image, and your future. That is why shutting the devil down is not simply an emotional reaction, but an intentional decision to recognize the lies for what they are and confront them before they define you. Every thought that enters your mind becomes a seed, and what you allow to remain will grow into habits and actions. If you feed on fear, insecurity, and negativity, they will produce a harvest of defeat. But if you root your thoughts in truth, courage, and purpose, you cultivate a life that flourishes beyond opposition. The key to silencing lies is not just in resisting them internally, but in speaking truth boldly and consistently. Words carry power far greater than we often realize. Silence allows deception to echo, but declaring life cuts through the noise. Every time fear insists that you cannot rise, you must counter with words that declare your strength and capacity to overcome. Every time discouragement tries to remind you of your past, you answer with conviction that your future is greater than anything behind you. It is not about ignoring pain or pretending difficulty does not exist. It is about confronting negativity with declarations that align with who you truly are. When you speak life over yourself, you shift the atmosphere within your mind and strip lies of their authority. But this discipline must be continual, because just as negativity grows stronger through repetition, so does faith. By consistently affirming your worth, your resilience, and your destiny, you begin to reprogram your inner dialogue, training your thoughts to reflect strength instead of weakness. Over time, this rhythm of speaking truth creates resilience so deep that no storm can uproot it, because you are no longer driven by temporary emotions, but anchored in eternal principles. Yet shutting the devil down requires more than words. It demands a posture of gratitude and a perspective shaped by faith. Gratitude reorients your heart, teaching you to focus not on what is missing, but on what is present. When you train yourself to see blessings even in the midst of hardship, you disarm the power of discouragement. Complaints may come naturally, but gratitude is the deliberate choice that silences them. Worship, too, becomes a weapon in this battle. It shifts your gaze from the weight of your problems to the strength of the one who carries you through them. Worship does not deny pain, but it declares that pain does not have the final say. This posture transforms every environment you walk into, because when you carry gratitude and worship in your spirit, negativity cannot thrive in the same space. You begin to see that shutting the devil down is not just about resisting lies in the moment, but about creating an atmosphere around your life where lies cannot easily take root. Gratitude and worship form a shield, strengthening your spirit and protecting your joy from being stolen. Perhaps the most transformative realization of all is that you are not striving toward victory as if it were uncertain. You are living from victory that has already been secured. This perspective changes everything. When you live as though you must still earn strength, worth, or approval, you remain in a constant cycle of striving, vulnerable to lies that tell you you are falling short. But when you understand that victory is already yours, you no longer fight for identity. You fight from identity. This shift silences the most intimidating voices, because they cannot argue with a truth that is already established. Every attempt to convince you that you are defeated collapses under the weight of your awareness that the outcome has already been written in your favor. Shutting the devil down, then, is not a single act of defiance, but a lifestyle of resilience, gratitude, faith, and confidence. It is the decision day after day to silence lies with truth, to replace fear with courage, and to turn every battle into a testimony of strength. When you live this way, every whisper of opposition becomes weaker. Every attempt to discourage you loses momentum, and every step forward becomes proof that you are unshakable, unstoppable, and destined to overcome. Life will always confront you with battles that cannot be seen with the naked eye, but can be felt deeply within your heart and mind. These battles often come in the form of thoughts, doubts, and inner voices that try to convince you that you are not strong enough, not worthy enough, or not prepared enough to step into the life that belongs to you. Fear exaggerates every weakness. Discouragement highlights every failure, and doubt questions every dream you have ever carried. If you are not careful, those voices will begin to weave themselves into your decisions and quietly dictate the direction of your future. That is why shutting the devil down is not an option, but a necessity. You cannot allow lies to go unchecked, because unchecked lies grow louder and stronger until they feel like truth. The first step is awareness, recognizing that the battle is happening, that the whispers in your mind are not harmless, and that they must be confronted before they gain control. Every thought is a seed, and what you allow to grow will eventually shape your destiny. The more you nurture fear, insecurity, and negativity, the more they take root in your life. But when you decide to replace them with thoughts of truth, courage, and resilience, you dismantle their power and take back the ground that was never meant to be surrendered. The most powerful tool you have in this fight is your words. Silence creates space for lies to echo endlessly, but speaking truth aloud cuts through the noise and breaks their grip. When fear whispers that you cannot succeed, you must respond with words that affirm your strength and capability. When doubt tries to convince you that you are not enough, you must declare that you are chosen, prepared, and equipped for what lies ahead. Words are not simply expressions, they are forces that shape reality. The more you align your words with truth, the more you create an atmosphere that cannot be overtaken by negativity. But this cannot be done occasionally. It must become a rhythm, a lifestyle. Just as repeating negativity strengthens fear, repeating affirmations of faith and courage strengthens resilience. Every time you declare your identity, your worth, and your destiny, you are training your spirit to resist the weight of lies. Over time, this discipline rewires your mindset, building a foundation so firm that even in moments of weakness, your first instinct will be to speak life rather than surrender to fear. Words do not erase challenges, but they remind you of the strength within you to endure and overcome. Beyond words, shutting the devil down requires cultivating an attitude of gratitude and a spirit of worship. Gratitude changes your perspective by shifting your focus from what is lacking to what has been given, from what is painful to what is still possible. Every time you choose gratitude over complaint, you strip discouragement of its fuel. Worship deepens this transformation by lifting your vision beyond your present struggle and fixing it on a greater reality. Worship is not about ignoring hardship, but about declaring that hardship will not have the final say. It creates an atmosphere where lies cannot thrive, because when your heart is anchored in gratitude and your spirit is lifted in worship, fear and negativity cannot coexist. These disciplines are not occasional practices. They are habits that form a shield around your life, a constant reminder that joy cannot be stolen unless you surrender it. Gratitude and worship become weapons that silence every voice of despair, replacing them with peace, strength, and clarity. Shutting the devil down also means grounding your life in unshakable principles and promises rather than fleeting emotions. Feelings are unreliable. They rise and fall like the tide, but truth remains constant. If you allow emotions to guide you, you will be swayed by every circumstance, tossed back and forth by highs and lows. When you adopt this posture, fear loses its grip, discouragement loses its voice, and negativity loses its platform, because truth speaks louder than every lie. You begin to walk not as someone unsure of the outcome, but as someone who knows that your story was always written for triumph. And that awareness shuts the devil down once and for all.